Adam Oliner, CEO and founder at Graft, which is the first modern AI platform. We're going to cover a lot of ground today. I'm going to talk about why you need an AI strategy, what the properties of a good one are, which will lead inevitably to the only good AI strategy, which is the topic of this talk. I'll talk about how to execute on that strategy, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts. Once again, I'm Adam. This is my giant head. I have been working in and around AI for almost a quarter of a century, starting back doing undergraduate research in the MIT AI lab. I went on to do a PhD at Stanford and a postdoc at Berkeley. I helped to build up the ML function at Splunk from zero, helping to seed and grow that team and organization. I was most recently head of machine learning at Slack, and Graft is my second company. So let's talk about why you need an AI strategy at all. Well, there are lots of important business outcomes from AI, including increased productivity, so you can accomplish more with the team and resources that you have or cut costs. There are lots of types of risk that you can mitigate. So one of those is decision risk, so you can make better decisions using more information. You can also mitigate the technological risk of missing this technological wave. You can increase revenue with new services or product capabilities, make your customers more successful and help retain them. And finally, build a moat by turning your data into a competitive advantage. Okay, who doesn't want to do all of these things? So why isn't everyone doing AI? Well, the number one reason is they lack a clear strategy. Infrastructure and expertise are also high on that list, and we'll touch on that as well. But the lack of a strategy is the number one barrier to AI adoption, and I will try to help you resolve that question today. This is the thesis of this talk, so I'm just going to read it. In 5 years, there will be two types of companies, those with an AI strategy and those that are dying. There is only one good strategy, and it requires a modern AI platform that's accessible to everyone in the organization. So I keep saying modern AI. What is that? Well, it's the way that top AI companies have been doing AI for years now, well before ChatGPT and all of that entered the more common zeitgeist. It's built around a technology called foundation models, which are these large pre-trained models. It's a data-centric approach, which abstracts away a lot of the underlying machinery of AI. And it's full life cycle, so you're not building things in a notebook and then scratching your head trying to figure out how to bring that thing to production. Everyone is very focused at the moment on LLMs and generative and text, but those are all subsets, tiny subsets of a much broader AI trend, which is foundation models. And all of the infrastructure and processes that make those foundation models useful in production, that is modern AI. I wrote a blog about it. There's a URL there. You can find it later. When I was leading ML at Slack, we shipped dozens of use cases that were based around modern AI, and it was hugely impactful. Both the number and the quality of these features would have been impossible without those technologies. It was a proof point for doing modern AI outside of Google and Meta and Amazon. It was one of the reasons that I started Graft. So it works in real life. So what are the properties of a good AI strategy? Not the business outcomes, but the strategy itself. So if data is what's feeding AI and giving us our competitive advantage, we should build a strategy that uses all of the data available to us. Let's not leave any bits on the table, if you will. 80% of your data is unstructured, so you should be thinking not just about tabular data, but also about text and images and audio and video and graphs. So a good AI strategy must be multimodal. Don't just think about LLMs and text, even though that's very exciting. Should also support experimentation. So quick show of hands, audience participation. How many of you think that you know every AI feature you're going to ship to production over the next 5 years? 2 years? All right, this is a smart crowd. I saw no hands. That's the correct answer. I think it's unlikely that any of you do. But you need to build infrastructure, at the very least, to do the experimentation to figure out which of these features are going to work, which are going to deliver the business outcomes and the value that you're hoping for. But you don't know what those things are going to be now, so you should be thinking about a platform that supports experimentation across a breadth of the use cases and technologies that you might ship over the next 2 to 5 years. It's also very easy to get caught up in the things that everyone's excited about now. So if you're building a strategy just around LLMs or generative or text, then that feeling that you are falling behind is going to resurface in a few months when the industry has moved on from those things and is excited about multimodal or the next thing. So a strategy must support the breadth of possible future use cases. You also want to be building collaboratively, and there are two senses in which I mean this. The first is that your investments in AI should compound. What I mean is, as you build things in the platform, the next thing you build should typically be easier. So you're not always starting from scratch every time you have some new use case. But not only that, things built by one team should be valuable to other teams as well. So if you build useful insights around your customers, that can be used by the product team or by the marketing team. It shouldn't be isolated to a single one. Data silos are sometimes useful. Governance is very important, but they should be intentional ones. And in general, you should be trying to empower your entire team. So a strategy should lift the entire organization. People sometimes talk about AI as giving people superpowers, access to intelligence that they wouldn't otherwise have. So what percentage of your team would you like to have superpowers? 99%, right? Forget, except for Brad, you know? Yeah, no, 100% is right. That's the right answer, right? There's really only one sane answer to that question. You want to be empowering everyone on your team with these superpowers. So that strategy should empower everyone. Okay, so let's review. You need your strategy to involve using everything. So it has to be multimodal. You want to support experimentation across the breadth of possible future use cases. You want to build collaboratively across the organization, so everyone is lifted. And you want to empower everyone to be able to contribute to and benefit from these technologies. You can sit and ruminate on this for a while, but you will find that there is an inevitable conclusion to all of this, which is that there's only one good AI strategy, and that's with a modern AI platform. All your data, all your use cases, your entire team. Happy to argue about this later. It's a fun topic. But this is the thesis. So let's say you believe me. How do you do this? So let's talk about actually executing on this strategy. So it's real simple. All you have to do is first identify the dozens of tools and services that you're going to need to compose into your production system across topics like orchestration and storage and security. You need to assemble those components. They're not Lego bricks. So you need to write some glue code and potentially entirely new services to support overarching systemic properties that you want to enforce. So you have to assemble it into a production system. You'll need to package that in such a way that your entire team can use it, which probably involves building UI of some kind. You need to deploy it to production and make it work reliably at scale. This might include integrations with lots of your other services, including data sources. An infrastructure is like a child, so it needs care and feeding throughout its entire life. So any infrastructure that you build and are using in production, you need to pay for in perpetuity for its entire life. So this already sounds a little bit daunting, but actually I skipped a step here. You need to have people who know how to do all of this. So most engineers don't understand AI technologies well enough to build the production system that I just described to you, to assemble an AI platform from scratch, certainly a modern one. It turns out AI talent is very expensive, about $250,000 per head per year. You're probably going to need more than one of these if you want to build this in less than a few years. And so you're talking about millions of dollars just for the people required to build a modern AI platform. And it's going up over time. Okay, step one, identify the tools and services. This is the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data landscape, thanks to Matt Turk, who publishes one of these every year. You can squint and see lots of subcategories in here, like data warehouses and monitoring, privacy and security, data integration, computer vision, NLP, ML ops, on down the list. This is increasingly complicated every year. Okay, let's say though that you do manage to find some components in here that independently are good choices. Remember that this is going to turn into a production system. They have to work together as well. So you can't even make independent choices across these different categories. You're trying to make global optimizations across them. Okay, here's a picture, a cartoon of what our modern AI platform looks like at a high level. You have storage, orchestration and monitoring, distributed compute, security, and interaction. This is a cartoon for a few reasons. Most important being that you'll notice that none of these are explicitly connected to any of the others. Whereas actually, if you want this to solve real problems for real people in real businesses, the ways that these are wired up, that is in some ways the hardest part. Even if someone came and gave you all of the components, they're not just going to be a platform. You have to build that part. And I say this with all respect, you're probably going to do it wrong. And I say that because that's what the data says. Most organizations never manage to successfully deploy these things to production. Amongst enterprises, talking about generative AI specifically, only 4% have managed to ship any use cases to production. And if you look at the bottom right, most of them only really manage to ship 1 or 2 use cases. And that's true even over multiple years. And some of those are going down. So some of them had to unship some of those use cases. And there are real risks associated with doing it wrong, even aside from the costs of building it and not actually getting the business value that you believed you were going to get from it. And those include cybersecurity risks and reputational risks from shipping something that leaks private information or makes bad recommendations or is not in compliance, et cetera. So it's very hard to do this right, even if you know what you're doing, even if you have lots of resources. So in case you can't tell, I am trying to admonish you against trying to build this yourself. It is harder and more expensive than you think. There are lots of risks associated with it. But I think one of the most compelling reasons not to build it yourself is it's not differentiating. If you look at the AI infrastructure, the modern AI platforms that successful AI companies build, and you overlaid the architecture diagrams, they're basically all building the same system out of very similar components. So it's not differentiating for you to make that investment and build that platform yourself. You're going to end up with something that everyone else already has. It's a distraction from your core business. So this is the slide. If you're going to pay attention to one slide, I see people taking pictures with their phones. This is the one to take a picture of. So your company should have an AI strategy. You don't want to be amongst the cohort of companies that are dying in 5 years. There's only one good one, and it is to have a modern AI platform that lets you use all of your data, supports experimentation, builds collaboratively to lift the organization, and empowers everyone there. And you shouldn't build it yourself. It's expensive, difficult, risky, distracting, etc. Focus on your business. At Graft, we built it for you, so you don't have to. This is a picture of some of the underlying stuff in the modern AI platform that Graft has built, including some of the foundation models and active learning. But these are the technologies that underpin it. You don't have to know about any of this stuff in order to use the platform. That's partly how you empower your whole organization. All of this stuff is wired up together in the ways that it should be. A lot of this talk probably felt like a bracing dash of cold water in your face. That's sort of the point. I would love to talk to you. We are at booth 113. You can find us at graft.com. We'd love to have a conversation about where you see the barriers to adopting AI and where Graft could potentially help you remove them. Thank you.